we're going to get into GMOs, please, chat, if you take away anything from this stream, it's that you shouldn't hate GMOs. You should hate evil corporations that have utilized GMOs to make farmer lives much, much, much worse. Which is why I want to talk about this video. Maybe we can honestly segue right now into this video. But like, it is not GMOs that are the issue. It is companies like Monsanto that are the issue, okay? Like, I think one of the most common illnesses in, like, across history because of food deficiency, I think it's vitamin B12 deficiency or vitamin B2 deficiency, is beriberi, which we pretty much have eradicated because of rice and because of nutritionally fortifying rice. And guess what? Someone had to sit there and do research because in a lot of Asian countries, people wash their rice. I'm not going to get into whether or not everyone should wash their rice or not. We're not going to get into that conversation. Silence. But because people wash their rice, when the nutrients, the nutritionally fortified like spray is put on the food that gives more like vitamins and everything, and you wash it off, it just disappears. And so researchers put together tiny little fake rice kernels that look like rice. I think they're like a little bit more opaque than normal rice is. And the little tiny kernels, they throw in a bunch of them because they anticipate people are going to wash the rice anyways. So to keep the nutritionally fortified aspect of the rice, they add the kernels instead. They put fake rice in there, which is really, really, really cool. I swear I've seen that. It's a thing. No, it's really cool. Let them study the rice, dude. Give them the fucking millions and billions of dollars to do this shit. It's really fucking cool. Oh, was it actually vitamin A deficiency? I'm blanking on the exact vitamin deficiency. I will show this, guys.
Factor to consider.
Wait, I want to show you guys a little. This shit is so cool.
52, but it didn't work so well. They've had better luck in recent years fortifying other products. The authors of this 2014 paper point to Costa Rica as a success story for rice fortification, and one thing that's worked well there is more advanced method of adding vitamins that won't just wash away. One such method is extrusion.
So they they use rice flour to add with like all the the nutrient you want to fortify, and to make it make into a rice kernel. So they make the shape like rice kernel.
Little fake kernels of solid nutrition. Pretty clever. As far as Dr. Wong knows, no producer in the United States is doing that yet. Those fake kernels can sometimes look kind of yellow, and that might freak consumers out. So if your rice is fortified via dusting, like rice here in the United States, and if you need those vitamins in your diet, that's a reason to not wash your rice. Another health and safety factor to consider here is potential.
Okay. They put in little fake kernels of nutrients. Isn't that so cool? Is that not one of the coolest things on the planet, dude? Oh my god. Please wash your rice, though? Well, guess what, bitch? Get fucking science, dude.
Health implications for the farmers. It's not a really big dietary risk. However, there have been studies done where washing proved effective at removing pesticide residues where found. But when it comes to arsenic contamination in rice, the research has shown that washing is not very effective.
Did you hear that? It's not effective. It's not. It's not effective. You do it because you like doing it.
Effective is cooking rice like pasta, boiling it in a lot of water and then draining it. This is a
That's how you get rid of the arsenic. Do not tell me you wash the rice to get rid of the arsenic if you're not boiling it first and then draining it, okay? You're not doing that because it's for the arsenic. You're doing it for the starchiness, or you're doing it because you like doing it. All right? I'm fact-checking this now. I'm doing this now. If you want to wash your rice, go ahead and wash your rice. But don't tell me it's for the arsenic, because it's not even effective at doing that, okay? All right. Okay. Washing rice is really only to remove excess starch? Correct. Correct. I'll say it. I'll say it. Correct. The only reason you should wash your rice is because you don't want it to be extra starchy. That's it. Honestly, this is new info to me. This is why I don't even like, when it comes to washing rice, I don't even talk. I don't even let the words leave my mouth. I let somebody else say it. And I'm going to just be honest with all of you guys. I'm only approaching this on a science basis because I will tell you guys, I am not a good rice cooker. I've had a million different rice cookers. There's, you got to try this one. You got to use this one. I've tried pots. I've tried everything. And I've tried boiling and then straining it. I've tried rinsing it beforehand. My rice always like just comes out bad. I just can't. The other day I actually cooked rice and it came out good. And I like almost wanted to cry. I'm like, I did it. I made it. Oh my God. Do you have a rice cooker? I do. I do have a rice cooker. Actually, I got like a really good rice cooker because, really long story.
Bro,
but,
it's not that hard. It's just rice.
I know. I just don't know what I can cook anything else. Rice, it always fucks up. But, you tried cooking in oil rather than the water. Rice is so easy to make in a pot. I mean, how do you mess up rice in a cooker? Bro, I don't know. I'm like an anime character on this. I can do everything else, but like rice is just, I just can't. I just can't do it. What was I saying? No, I have a really good rice cooker because I became friends with a fellow cat enjoyer in my complex. And then she moved back home to fucking China. And she was like, do you want all my stuff? And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, I'm just going to throw it out or like put it in a Goodwill. Do you want it? And she gave me a really nice rice cooker. And I still fuck it up. So I'm just like, I'm not great at cooking rice. This is purely, listen, you make your rice how you want to make it. That's the tastiest way for you to make it. Okay. But yeah, the Zoji Rushi, I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyways. You'd have to watch it though. Yeah, I don't know. The closest I've gotten to making good rice has been in a pot, unfortunately. So anywho, how do you ruin rice with a rice cooker? It usually just like burns on the bottom. That's usually how it fucks up for me. Or like the water evaporates, but the rice is still crunchy. I'm like, what the fuck? And I've tried everything. I've tried 1-to-1 ratio. I've tried 1-to-0.75 ratio. I've tried 1-to-2 ratio. I've tried everything. And I'm just like, I don't understand. I don't get it. Rice just doesn't like me. It just doesn't like me. So, anywho. You can always put, the only way that I actually have successfully cooked rice is putting like 1-to-2 ratio of water and then every 5 minutes adding some water, which I know is like, this is like demonic shit that I'm saying right now. Also, someone said, like, do you have to remove the starch? Well, it depends on what you're making. Ragusa talks about it a little bit. Like, starch is good if you're making things like risotto because the starch makes it, like, thickens it. But if you're making, like fall apart fluffy rice, you don't want the starches there. So, moving on. Anyway, I don't want to get too stun locked. But just so you guys know, rinsing your rice does not remove the arsenic. That is all. 'Tis all I am saying. Do not kill the messenger. 'Tis all I am saying. Continuing. You know what? Let's get into the GMO conversation. Honestly, I would like to watch I'd like to watch at least a little bit of the conversation on Monsanto because I found out about Monsanto being evil like ages ago, and I just.
October evening in 2016, an Arkansas farmer was sitting in his pickup truck just outside his field, and he was growing impatient. Suddenly, another car pulled up beside him, so the farmer got out. Seconds later, he was murdered. The farmer's name was Mike Wallace. He wasn't killed over money or land. He was killed over a herbicide. A chemical designed to destroy weeds.
You know, this video is kind of hardcore.
This herbicide spread fear through rural America, turning farmers against each other, all because it belonged to a certain company.
This company's policies, they pitted farmer against farmer, and they could just send henchmen to your door.
Both 2,4,5-T and 2,4-D were marketed as very safe.
See, when the herbicides were first getting introduced, Jones, the original inventor, even remarked that He knew people who would accidentally drink or spray the herbicides onto themselves, and they suffered no ill health effects. They were fine. And one of the doctors, after him, remarked that I've personally taken 1/2 a gram of pure 2,4-D a day for 3 weeks. You judge the results. It was the 40s, so people were a bit crazy, but yeah, it seemed pretty safe.
Back at Nitro, Monsanto analyzed all the other ingredients they were using to make
It's kind of giving Green Goblin.
2,4,5-T, but they still couldn't find what was causing their workers' skin to erupt in this way. This is where their search seemingly stopped.
With no culprit, the conditions at the plant stayed mostly the same, and Monsanto just offered their workers a choice. Either you'll keep on working with 2,4,5-T, or you can take the gate.
For many, this was no choice at all, since there were hardly
Maybe audio.
any
I
other
don't know.
jobs in town. So most of the workers stayed with something inside the factory poisoning them for years to come.
It wasn't until 1957, 8 years after the explosion, that a German dermatologist, Karl Schultz, found himself treating patients with similar-looking lesions and acne. He wasn't surprised by the symptoms because many of these patients worked in 2,4,5-T factories around Hamburg. But Schultz wasn't satisfied with this. Maybe the conditions aren't perfect. Maybe there is something in this process, some secret reaction that is contaminating the whole chemical supply.
Ideally, the industrial process of transforming tetrachlorobenzene into 2,4,5-T should happen at 170 degrees Celsius, but if the temperature gets any higher, even just a few degrees higher, there is suddenly enough energy in the system for 2 molecules of TCP to fuse together. This creates a molecule commonly known as dioxin.
Dude, audio called it. Yeah. Me when I'm baking, but I don't follow the directions and it doesn't come out correctly. Why is this happening?
It forms only in trace amounts, so you might expect to end up with roughly 1 or 2 molecules of dioxin for every 100,000 molecules of 2,4,5-T. It seemed too small to be a problem. Nevertheless, Schultz decided to test it. He took some TCP, this time contaminated with trace amounts of dioxin, and rubbed it into his own skin. And he got the same acne as the workers at the Nitro plant. The US's herbicide of choice was Agent Orange, a 50-50 split of 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T, supplied by the US's biggest chemical manufacturers. The largest supplier by volume was Monsanto. Agent Orange ravaged through South Vietnam, destroying 20% of the jungles, and civilians and soldiers on both sides got sprayed with it too, mostly by accident. The government assured them that it is not
By accident.
toxic to humans, animals, or drinking water, but Monsanto and Dow knew otherwise. See, during Ranch Hand, they secretly exchanged information on their herbicides, and in one of the letters, Dow acknowledged that dioxin, which had been contaminating 2,4,5-T for years, was the most toxic compound they have ever experienced, and that even trace amounts of it caused incapacitating acne.
By 1965, it was obvious that both companies understood what sort of threat dioxin was. And yet, there are no records that Monsanto or Dow ever sent communication to the US government warning them about the threat.
In fact, Dow's vice president reportedly said, if the government learns about this, the whole industry will suffer. As a result, the US sprayed South Vietnam with 72 million liters of Agent Orange, within which was just 80 liters of dioxin. And even though that doesn't seem like much, the damage was irreparable. Civilians and soldiers on both sides suffered from skin diseases and cancer. Children were born with physical and mental disabilities. By some estimates, as many as 3 million people suffered from the effects of Agent Orange. This outraged the public. In 1967, 5,000 scientists signed a petition to the president condemning his use of the herbicides. And Monsanto was under scrutiny too, because regulators were catching on to the dioxin contained in 2,4,5-T. The herbicide was about to be phased out, compromising their bottom line. Monsanto needed a miracle, and they needed it fast. Their idea was to replace 2,4,5-T with a safer herbicide, but after 9 years of research, they weren't getting anywhere. All of the scientists in the agricultural department referred to this new initiative as a dead area.
One of the last remaining scientists on the project was John E. France, and by early 1970, he was about to give it up too. But before abandoning the project, France decided to do one final set of experiments. So he thought up 19 possible acids that could maybe work as herbicides and decided to test them out. He prepped the first herbicide, but nothing happened. The plant was completely fine and the herbicide had no activity. Then he decided to test the second herbicide, and he applied it to a plant. It was 10 times more powerful than any herbicide the team had ever seen. And allegedly, it made the plants super nasty. It made the plants super nasty. Oh, that was disgusting.
This miracle
Is it radical to say evil was caused by capitalism? They kept using the same shit because it was going to make them money. I mean, I don't know anything about that statement. That's radical, dude. My screen says support Denims by disabling ad block. Streamers make money when Twitch viewers watch it. I don't get ads, so no, don't allow it. I don't get any ads, so it doesn't matter.
compound was glyphosate, a phosphonic acid group on one end and a carboxyl group on the other, with a nitrogen, hydrogen, or amino group in between.
To make sure it was commercially feasible, France and his colleagues set up tests in these outdoor fields. And as one of the scientists was getting back to these test sites, he saw the results from the plane. It was clear as day. All he could do is write Eureka across the performance report. It was the best herbicide they'd ever seen.
So what made it so great at killing plants? Well, for plants to survive, they use a chemical pathway, a series of reactions to create 3 important amino acids, acids without which they die. This process is known as the shikimate pathway because it starts with shikimic acid, named after the Japanese shikimi flower. During one of the steps, 2 acids, S3P and PEP, need to transform into a third compound, but they can only do that with the help of an enzyme called EPSPS, which catalyzes the reaction and helps the 2 molecules combine. However, if glyphosate is present during this reaction, it will begin to mimic PEP because they have a very similar geometry. And because of that, glyphosate actually binds first to EPSPS, blocking it from acting as a catalyst. Now, the acids can't transform and the whole shikimate pathway is destroyed. Without it, there are no amino acids and the plant dies. Crucially, the shikimate pathway is unique to plants and things like bacteria and fungi. Humans and animals don't have it. In fact, we have to eat foods that contain these 3 amino acids.
But for Monsanto, this was good news because they could market that glyphosate targets an enzyme found in plants, but not in humans or pets. So after decades of toxic products, Monsanto finally had one which they were sure was safe. And research was also showing that after you spray glyphosate, the microorganisms in the soil break it down into safe byproducts. It was biodegradable. Glyphosate was perfect, so they wasted no time in getting it on the market. In 1974, Monsanto had a new hit herbicide, Roundup.
Roundup is better. It goes through the plant to kill it, tops and rhizomes.
My roots hurt real bad. Hank? Roundup, no root, no weed, no problem.
Farmers loved it because, unlike 2,4-D, glyphosate killed every weed, not just broadleaf ones, but grassy too. It allowed them to practice something called no-till farming. See, usually, to get rid of weeds, you'd have to plow up the entire field before planting anything. And that would hurt the soil, and it was also just a lot of work. But with Roundup, what you do is you spray the whole field, everything dies, and then you just plant directly into the residue. It was easier, faster, and cheaper. And Roundup was safe to use too. They marketed it as safer than table salt and safe enough to drink, basically.
Roundup can be used where kids and pets will play and breaks down into natural materials.
By the late 80s, Monsanto was selling 7 million pounds of Roundup and making $1 billion each year. And they weren't going to share a penny of that money with anyone.
See, with other herbicides, like, for example, Alichlor, which was moderately popular at the time, you can tweak the molecule a bit here or there, and you still get a very potent weed killer. So if you patented a specific herbicide, your competitors could still use hundreds of its close relatives, which would still work perfectly well without violating your patent rights. But glyphosate was different. If you were to modify the molecule in any way, its herbicidal properties were completely gone. So Monsanto could rest easy knowing that until the year 2000, they would be the only ones able to sell it.
But there was a little problem with glyphosate. See, unlike 2,4-D, which only killed broad-leaved weeds, Roundup kills everything. I sprayed some of my own houseplants here, and well, you can see the results. Chances are, if it's green, Roundup is going to kill it. And this was a problem because farmers could only really spray Roundup on their field twice, either right before planting the seeds or right after a harvest. But for Monsanto, this was
Not me muted again. Okay. While we were watching this, I also spent the past 10 minutes researching something because another chatter has the audacity to question me. If you can believe it, chat. The hubris on display today is incredible. Where is it? You'll never persuade me a GMO product is better than organic. Fool's errands. No, it isn't. You didn't engage with my statement and you wanted an argument with yourself. Well done. Listen up, bitch. Okay? I spent an obscene amount of time just now looking up the USDA's definition of organic and what can be and what cannot be classified as organic. And you know what? Buckle in. All right? Because GMO and organic, or rather organic, is a pretty fucking useless term. So, let me pull it up. USDA.gov has a full 10,000 different links on their definition of what is and what is not allowed under the USDA organic label. Talks about how you can get certified, all this other shit, what things are, what is considered to be organic. All right. And you'll note here, it does say genetic engineering may not be used, except once you actually go to the policy, okay, where it lists National Organic Program, okay, and it defines all of the terms, okay, and it says here, excluded methods, a variety of methods used to genetically modify organisms or influence their growth and development by means that are not possible under national conditions or processes and are not considered compatible with organic production. Such methods include cell fusion, microencapsulation, macroencapsulation, recombinant DNA technology, and then it talks about including gene deletion, gene doubling, introducing a foreign gene, changing the position of genes when achieved by, okay, blah, blah. Such methods, however, do not include the use of traditional breeding, conjugation, fermentation, hybridization, in vitro fertilization, or tissue culture. Do you know what that means, chatter? It means that there are things that are labeled as organic. Meanwhile, they actually are GMO products. Okay, one such example, the tomato, which we've talked about before, that the tomato is simply, it is a GMO product. It's one of the first GMO products we've had on a shelf in an American store, and it is two different tomatoes combined to make a better tomato, or a more long-lasting tomato. But guess what? That's still considered genetically modified, because neither of those tomatoes separately would create what we have now. We're not going to get into bananas, we're not going to get into apples, because we're talking only about methods with traditional breeding, conjugation, fermentation, hybridization, in vitro fertilization, or tissue culture. Okay? I know everybody's bringing up bananas because that's the very, very obvious one, because you can get organic bananas. Meanwhile, everybody knows bananas got almost fucking wiped out, and we had to modify them to be able to get bananas as they are today. But I want to stay on topic here, okay? And guess what? If you go and you look into whether or not these methods are still considered GMO, they are considered GMO. If you go to the page for genetic engineering techniques to genetically modify something like that, you can find all of these methods in here. I only looked up one. No, I looked up two. But here's one such example. In plants, DNA is often inserted, blah, 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 taking advantage of bacteria, blah. Plant tissue are cut into small pieces soaked in a fluid. The bacteria may attach to many of the plant cells exposed to the cuts. The bacteria uses conjugation to transfer a DNA segment called tDNA from its plasmid into the plant. The transferred DNA is piloted into the plant cell nucleus, integrated into the host plant. So it's not normally going to get these bacteria or like this bacteria in it, but you can force it to, and that's genetically modifying it. Even grafting is considered GMO. Exactly. If you think that, I like organic. Okay, there are some products that I will live by. When it comes to organic, I'm gonna be honest. I don't buy normal milk. This is one of the few products I buy always organic. Organic milk just tastes better. It's just like richer. I don't know why. I don't know exactly what happens, what specifically in that process occurs that makes it better, but it's not because of GMO. All right, dude? You're doing this blanket blaming on GMO because you have this one very narrow idea of what GMO is, when in reality, probably everything that you're eating, even the things that you're eating that are organic, are GMO. You can't argue that GMO is bad when you're eating shit thinking that it's not GMO and it is GMO. What you are probably actually describing, what you're probably frustrated by when you buy a normal product versus an organic product, is that organic products tend to have, they tend to be from smaller farms. They tend to have shorter lifespans on the shelves. They tend to not have pesticides. They tend to not have insecticides. And that stuff can impact the flavor of a plant. Like, what is it called? For all the people saying raw milk, no, organic milk is pasteurized, okay? I don't drink unpasteurized milk. That's disgusting. Organic milk is a different thing. It's safe for human consumption. It's been pasteurized. It's the reason why tomatoes that you grow in your backyard will always be better than tomatoes in grocery stores. And it's because the average vegetables in your grocery store have been sitting there for a year. The average, I mean, we looked it up together last time. The average age of an apple in a grocery store is a year. It's been plucked off the tree for a year. You only like the farmer's market and the organic stuff more, not because it's not GMO, but probably because it hasn't been sitting around for a year. Okay, like I get so mauled about people that think that like GMO is like the devil. Meanwhile, they don't even understand the definition of something that's organic. Something can be organic and still be genetically modified. Okay. All right. That's what I was going to say. That's all I wanted to say. And by that's all I wanted to say, thank you for coming to my TED Talk about GMO. All right? I appreciate it. You're not even gonna, you know how much work I put into that response, and this is the fucking response you're gonna give me back, dude? Are you serious? I researched something you were too lazy to research, and this is what you're gonna give me in return?
Half a year of content.
Of course you can argue it's bad, aha. Just because it's prolific doesn't preclude it from being a bad thing. Look at your flour in the US or McDonald's potatoes. No! No, dude. The problem here is that you compared a GMO product to an organic product without realizing that your organic products are GMO. You just compared a GMO product to a different GMO product and said, this one is better. Oh my God. And then this person, you're way off claiming regular breeding is the same as GMO, but GMOs are generally fine whether you're wrong here or not. I don't understand. Do you think all of Wikipedia is wrong? What do you think genetically engineering techniques for fruits, vegetables, and plants mean? The methods that the USDA lists on their website are put under the genetically modified plants category under Wikipedia. It's considered GMO. I don't understand. You're not disagreeing with me, dude. You're disagreeing with fucking Wikipedia. You're disagreeing with the definition of these words. I'm so like, sometimes, dude. Sometimes. Did you just say apples are a year old? What the fuck? Can we go back to that? The TLDR is that they're like put in this high oxygen chamber and they're stored until you want to have it. That's why when you bring them home, they go bad. But before then, they're not going bad. It's just like a basic misunderstanding of what GMO means. It's like, I feel like I'm saying, dude, that, hey guys, not all rectangles are squares, but all squares are rectangles. And people are being like, you know, there's a really big difference between squares and rectangles. It's like, I don't care which way you slice it, bro. A square is still a rectangle. I don't care how you're slicing it, dude. These methods that the FDA lists as being acceptable, genetically modified, that's still genetically modifying something. What about rhombuses, though? I don't think rhombuses are rectangles. All right. Okay. Do you mean low oxygen? Oh, sorry. It might be low oxygen. Might be low oxygen. Let me see. There's a website that talked about it. Let me see. Oh, yeah. It's really, really low oxygen. My bad. I was going to say that. Thank you for the correct. I was like either in between low oxygen or high oxygen. Basically, they harvest it during the normal harvest season, and then they store it between 34 and 38 degrees, and they drop the oxygen down to 1 to 3%, and that keeps them from ripening. So they're just like in this unripening chamber, and then they take them out. So you bring them home, and they immediately go bad. Okay, all right. I'm done on this. I'm done on this tirade. Sorry, I love this. Read the USDA thing again. It literally says a variety of methods used to genetically modify organisms or influence blah, 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 are not considered compatible with organic production. These methods don't include these things. If they were a whole different category, they wouldn't be in that category. Again, you're not disagreeing with me. You're disagreeing with like what words mean, what sentences mean. Chat is being stored in a low oxygen environment. And that's why they're sometimes like this, often for a year or longer. Stop, dude, stop. Okay. Moving on. Moving on. That's all I wanted to say. Okay. You can have a preference. You can have a preference for organic versus non-organic things, but to say that you'll never persuade me a GMO product is better than an organic product is ridiculous, because there's a good chance all the organic products you're eating are fucking GMO. What you mean to say is, you'll never convince me that a non-organic product is better than an organic product. That would make more sense. You can have GMO products that are also organic. And again, there's a good chance you don't like the GMO products more because of how long they've been stored, what type of specific variety it is, because sometimes things that are like meant to last longer aren't the tastiest. So like a great example is bread, right? The store bread at the store, the white bread at the store isn't bad because it's like this evil bread made out of sponge or rubber or whatever the fuck. It's bad because it has a lot of sugar in it and it has a lot of fat in it, and it doesn't have like a nice crunchy top on it, because it's meant to stay good for a lot longer. It's just a different product than like bakery bread is. And also, different bread is good for different things, you know? Like, I feel like white bread is a perfectly good bread for like a peanut butter and jelly. I don't feel like a peanut butter jelly on like a really harsh rye bread would go as hard. or like the little like cucumber tea sandwiches or whatever. That shit, pretty good. I feel like with a harder bread, it might not hit the same way. And this is coming from a rye enjoyer. But you don't bring home like the white bread and you're like, dude, white bread is so much worse than all other types of bread. It's like, no, it's just a different fucking product meant to do different things. There's no like evil bread. There's just bread that's meant for different purposes. I've tried PB&J on rye and it's not good. Well, the thing is, if you've tried PB&J on rye and you like it, there's a good chance that the rye was like a low percentage of rye relative to white. Because actual rye bread, like 100% rye bread that doesn't have any like white flour in it, is hard as a fucking rock. It doesn't expand. But like rye that's like mixed with other thing, which most rye bread is, has some, not levity, but that's what I'm looking for. But yeah, that's pumpernickel. No. I learned about this, chat. Here. Rye bread is a type of bread made with various proportions of flour from rye grain. So sometimes you'll buy rye bread and it'll feel really light, and it's because it has more white flour than it does rye. Because you add a little bit of white flour to give it a little bit of rise. Technically, all we eat is rye/white hybrid, so it is all, yeah, it is all considered rye, but like a pure rye, which I had once out of curiosity. I was like, what does rye bread taste like when it has no white flour in it? And it is literally hard as a rock. It is hard as a rock. It has no raise to it. It's very, this is what people, this is what I'm talking about. Sorry. Oh, I guess technically pumpernickel is a type of rye. Is that what it's saying? Wait, no, German style pumpernickel, dark, dense, closed textured loaf is made from crushed or ground whole rye. Oh, but this is whole rye. Well, without wheat flour. Okay. So the chatter that was talking about pumpernickel. Okay. I see what you were talking about. Yeah, it's just like a dense brick. So okay, moving on. I'm not gonna get too far there into it. I think we talked about all the things I wanted to talk about. That's a bread you dip in water like a hardtack. Yeah. It has the texture of like a cork board. Okay, to this chatter. I was AFK for the last 20. Then why did you type this? Why would you respond? I made my argument in like a minute and then you responded immediately. And then you're like, well, I was AFK. There was nothing happening in the last 20 minutes before that. What do you mean? Just admit that you didn't know that organic products are GMO and we can move on. Okay, dude? I'm telling you, chat. Listen. We're moving on.